What's going on, lads and lasses? Welcome back to 100% Mag. So I hope you're all staying safe and well out there. So this is my Premier League predictions table for the 24-25 season. Hopefully you like it. If you do, please hit a like on the video and please consider subscribing to the channel as well. I'm going to run through the entire of my thoughts on where teams will finish for this season, from the relegation zone right the way up to the champions. And of course everybody in between. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So in at number 20 in the league, of course, to go down, I'm going to go with Southampton. Now Southampton, of course, are back in the Premier League alongside the likes of Leicester and Ipswich, who got promoted last season from the Championship. But I do think Southampton will be going straight back down, even though they have signed some decent players in Taylor Hardwood-Bellis, who did some really good stuff with the England Unders. Of course, going on to win the Euros with the Unders. Anthony Gordon being the star of the show in that Euros as well, alongside the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White and Taylor Hardwood-Bellis. And then Southampton's also signed Adam Lallana back to the Saints. And of course, they've signed Ben Bertrand-Diaz as well so they've had a few good signings, but I don't think it's going to be enough to see them stay up in the Premier League for more than this season. So I do believe they will be going straight back down. That then takes what on to 19th place, which I think will be Leicester City. Leicester, again, another team back up in the Premier League, of course, and looking at what they've done, they haven't really done much, to be honest, in the transfer window so far, and they haven't had the best of luck neither, in the fact that their manager has vacated and went to Chelsea. It's just not looking good for Leicester, surely. Leicester fans, can't be looking forward to this league. They've also lost the likes of Dewsbury Hall as well to Chelsea, so Chelsea's been pilfering managers, players right, left and centre from Leicester. So it's not a good start for Leicester, and I think that's going to affect them this season in the Premier League, and that's why I am going to put them in at 19th place. And in the 18th place, unfortunately, I do hope they have a much better season than this. It could be a dark horse. They could have a much better season and be a lot higher in the league. But I do believe that Ipswich might be going back down straight away. So you can kind of guess my thoughts here. The three teams that have come up going straight back down, like we're seeing last season, where the three teams came up and they went straight back down. And I think that's going to be a similar picture again this season. Ipswich, however, I do hope, for Ipswich fans, that they have a much better season and they can stay in the Premier League for more than one season, because I really do rate Ipswich. They're a really good team. There's a lot of history there as well. A very historical club in football, in a brilliant fan base. And of course, there's some massive links with Bobby Robson, of course, to Ipswich as well, with him being a manager there and doing some fantastic stuff whilst at Portman Road as well. But I really do hope they get higher than this, but I am going to put them in its 18th place in the league, and going straight back down alongside the likes of Leicester and Southampton. That takes us now to 17th place. And I've got to say, coming in at 17th place, I'm going to say Everton here. Now, Everton, they just haven't done anything of note, to be honest. They've signed in Jake O'Brien from Lyon for 17 million, who looks like a really good player. But other than that, we've seen the likes of Amadou Onana leave them. We've seen Godfrey leave with them. We've seen quite a few other players leaving as well. And then there's the whole backroom dealings, of course, of the whole FFP situation, PSR situation that Everton's having to deal with. So I think that's going to affect them again this season. Maybe it's not relegate them, obviously, but put them in at 17th place in the league, just above that relegation zone. So I don't think it's going to be another good season for Everton. So Everton fans, if you're watching, I think you might be in for the long haul once again this season. Moving on to 16th place is Nottingham Forest. I'm going to put Nottingham Forest there. Again, another team that, to be honest, hasn't really done much, in my opinion. Yes, they've signed Elliot Anderson from us, of course, Newcastle, but other than that, they have lost a few players here and there, and I just don't see it being a really good season. It's going to be a long haul season, exactly like Everton's, once again, for Nottingham Forest. So, any Nottingham Forest fans watching, let us know what you think about that, and any other fans that I've mentioned so far, let us know what you think on your prediction so far, and where I think your team's going to go. On to 15th place now, and I'm going to go with Wolves here. Again, Wolves not doing the best last season. They didn't have the greatest of seasons. They finished 14th last season in the league, and they haven't really done anything of massive note in the transfer window neither. So I really can't see them finishing anywhere higher than 15th in the league. Of course, that would mean that they would have dropped one place from where they finished last season, in 14th place in the league. But that's my prediction. That's where I think they're going to go. Of course, it's all a bit of fun at the end of the day, so don't take it personally. Onto 14th place is Brighton now. The reason I've put Brighton down at 14th place, of course, last season they finished in 11th place, and they haven't had the greatest of transfer windows. Yes, they've gotten in Yakuba Minte from Newcastle, of course, and if we look at the other players that they've brought in, they've brought in Kuzi Dubry from Arsenal, but other than that, we've seen a few players leaving them, and of course, the manager as well now is not De Zerbi. It is, of course, a very young 31-year-old manager coming in from St. Pauli, of course, who were in the second division of the German league just last season. Of course, they got promoted to the Bundesliga, but looking at it, it's not looking like something that could be massive for Brighton. It doesn't look like it could be a huge move for Brighton going forward this season. So I do think they're going to finish around 14th place in the league. 13th place in the league, I'm going to go Crystal Palace for obvious reasons. Crystal Palace have lost Elise, and of course there's talk that they could lose Mark Guehi to my team Newcastle United, of course, and there's quite a few links going around of players leaving Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, of course, didn't have the greatest of seasons last season neither. Of course, they finished 10th place, which for Palace fans, that might sound absolutely amazing. But when you put it against the other teams in the league, like West Ham, Brighton, West Ham, Villa, these types of teams that they'd be competing against, they're finishing higher than them. So it's not looking good for Crystal Palace. So I think they're going to finish 13th in the league. And with the factor that, of course, Elise isn't there now, they're probably only going to have Etsy by the time the season kicks off, because Mark Guehi could be gone from Crystal Palace with the heavy links that are going around with him, saying that he wants to move to Newcastle. So I think 13th place is where Crystal Palace are probably going to finish come the end of this season. 12th place, I'm going to go with Fulham, just purely for that case alone. Just Fulham going in 12th place. I don't have any reasons behind why I've chose Fulham for 12th place. I just have Bournemouth, again, 11th place, just purely because that's where I've decided to pick them. Brentford I've picked in 10th place. Again, no real reasons behind it, just picking them for 10th place, really. West Ham, 9th place. No real reasons again for picking them in ninth place. 8th place for Chelsea, because I just don't think that they've got enough in the tank to be able to push themselves into them European spots. So I think they will finish outside of that European bracket, outside this, of course, Euro Conference League positioning, and takes us on to the top 7. Now, the top 7 that I've went with here, I think Aston Villa are going to go and finish 7th place in the league for obvious reasons. Looking at what Aston Villa's got ahead of them, they've got the unknown ahead of them. They've got a Champions League campaign, and they have now, of course, no longer got players like Douglas Luiz playing for them or Moussa Diaby playing for them, as they have departed the club. They have signed in Amadou Onana. They have signed in Ross Barkley, but their signings aren't setting the world alight right now, in my opinion. They just haven't signed anybody of massive note that is going to help them in this Champions League campaign, in the unknown Champions League campaign, because of it being a new format this season, as opposed to the format that, of course, my team Newcastle United went through last season, where we got the toughest group the Champions League has ever produced. Aston Villa's going into the unknown, like a lot of teams are going into the unknown who are playing in the Champions League this season. So I haven't seen anything of note from Aston Villa to say that, they're going to be able to do any higher than 7th. They could finish even lower than that in the league as well, because they've lost Douglas Luiz, they've lost Moussa Diaby, 2 players that could have helped them in the Champions League this season, and 2 players that could have helped them in the Premier League as well. It's going to be tough. I think, to be honest, is a prime example. I think Aston Villa are playing 1 season behind my team Newcastle. So the season we've just had, where it was the worst injury crisis possible, I think Aston Villa are probably going to have a similar situation to that, because there's going to be a lot of games that they're going to have to play. They're going to not have the quality of players there, or the amount of players there to be able to switch between, to keep the quality of the team going in the Champions League, the Premier League, the FA Cup, the League Cup. So I think, 7th place is probably about where I would put them. It's where we finished last season in the Premier League. So I think if they're playing 1 season behind we, then they're probably finish in the same place as we did last season. Moving on to 6th place, top 6 now. And in it, number 6, I'm going to go Tottenham. I don't think Tottenham are going to have a really good season like they had last season. Of course, they only finished 1 place higher than where I'm predicting them for this season. But I think it's going to be a tougher season for Ange Postecoglou. I think he's going to have a really tough time of it. Teams figuring out how he plays from the previous season. He's going to have to come up with new ideas. He's going to have to come up with a new approach to the game. And I think that's going to be a little bit tougher for them this season. But I still think they're going to have enough to be able to get themselves into at least a Europa League spot. So I'm going to put them in at 6th place in the league. And that takes us to 5th. Now, this one, I'm going to go with Liverpool in at 5th. It's a new season, a brand new, move for Liverpool as well. They're moving away from the Jurgen Klopp era at Liverpool. It's going to be a tough one for them. It's a transitional period for Liverpool. It's going to be a tough season. They're kind of going into the unknown, as most clubs do, after having a manager at their club for a very long time. We just have to look at Man United for that. Looking at what they did, when Ferguson left the club, they went through a transitional period. They're still going through that transitional period now. So I think it's going to be a similar situation for Liverpool. They're going to have to give Arne Slot time in patience with their new manager, because if they don't give him the patience, don't give him the time, the owners don't give him the time, then he's going to be gone. He's going to be out, and then it's going to be a similar situation like I've mentioned already. Man United situation, where Ferguson left the club. They ended up bringing in David Moyes from Everton. It didn't work out because there was a lot of conflicting interest from behind the scenes. Ferguson still trying to stick around and to keep his point in on the club. And I think that's going to be a similar situation here. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp's not going to be, getting in behind and giving little things and little niggles at the club because he's not there. But I think if the fans don't give him enough time, don't give Arne Slot enough time at Liverpool, then I think he will, be out, and then Liverpool will have to go and find another manager to take over the job, which is going to be, of course, a difficult situation with them not being that many managers out there that you could go and get who would be able to do a job that, Liverpool fans will be comfortable with now, along the likes of what Jurgen Klopp did at Liverpool over the years. But I'm going to put Liverpool fifth anyway. And in for number 4, top 4 now, and I'm going to go Man United to finish 4th in the league, just purely for putting them there, to be honest. There's no real reason behind it. I just don't think they're going to be good enough to get top 3. And I think they're not going to have that bad of a season. Obviously, they've got injuries with their new signing, Euro, picking up pretty much a season-long injury. There's a lot of injuries happening with them as well. So this could easily be, Liverpool finishing 4th, maybe Man U finishing 5th. So it's just pure speculation on where I think these teams are going to finish. So it could easily be the opposite way around. But I've went with Man United 4th, Liverpool 5th. And that takes us on to the top 3. Top 3, I think, is going to be, Newcastle finishing 3rd place. I think last season was a blip, looking at the way we played last season. We finished 7th, even with the worst injury crisis possible. I think we're going to return to form this season, and we're going to finish inside that top 3. Maybe even have a sneaky chance at challenging for the title. Who knows? Looking at the way we've been performing in pre-season, looking at what is available there for this season as well. We've got Sandro Tonali, who's going to obviously miss the first 2 games, but then he's going to be available from the 3rd game onwards, which is going to be pretty much like a new signing for it. And looking at what he did last season when he was playing until he got the ban, he was doing absolutely fantastic for it. So I think having Sandy back will be brilliant. Obviously, we'll have other players back that weren't available for as well, who were injured for quite a long period of time during last season, the likes of Harvey Barnes. Obviously, other players as well, like Nicky Pope, will be available for us straight from the off. And then, of course, there's the added factor of signings to come in yet as well. The likes of Mark Guehi being linked with Newcastle. There's other players being linked as well, like Federico Chais. There's also Yilmaz as well from Turkey, Galatasaray being linked with Newcastle. So there's plenty of names being thrown around for Newcastle to buy. If we sign, any of them players, then it could really boost our chances. Definitely getting Mark Guehi in would be a really good one for moving forward. So I think 3rd place with a chance of challenging for maybe the Premier League title this season would be a really good prediction for Newcastle in the league. And moving on to the top 2 now. And surprise, surprise, it's going to be a little bit of a different one. I'm going to go with Manchester City to finish 2nd this time, Arsenal to finish 1st. And for, the pure reasons that I think Arsenal can't bottle it every season, surely. Arteta's got to get at least one, I think. And I think this could be maybe the time that Arsenal do pip Man City to the Premier League title. If not, then Man City go on to make it 5 Premier League titles in a row, which is absolutely crazy to think. So I think Arsenal pipping Man City at the title, finishing first, Man City finishing second, and obvious factors as well. Man City's got a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with this whole 115 charges, which nothing's come out about that yet, even though the court case has been done. They are going to be fined 2 million. The news came out about for, you know, some wasting time during matches, half time, delaying kickoffs and stuff. So they're going to be fined 2 million for that. But nothing's come out about the charges towards the PSR FFP situation. So that's still looming in the background. So I think that may play a factor, you know, and then there's the factor that this is the last season Pep Guardiola will be Man City manager as well. So, you know, we're seeing what happened with Liverpool when Jurgen Klopp mentioned that he was leaving. Liverpool didn't have the greatest of seasons once he mentioned that. It kind of went off the rails. But I don't think it's going to go crazy off the rails for Man City. I think they will still finish in that top 2 area. But I don't think they'll be winning the Premier League title this season if Arsenal can show a little bit more of what they showed last season. Maybe they could pip Man City to the Premier League title this season. But anyway, let us know your thoughts. I know it's been a bit of a long video, in about 22 minutes long. But hopefully you have liked it. If you have, please hit a like on the video. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, make sure to hit the bell for all notifications so you never miss a one of my videos. And let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Where's your predictions? Where you're putting teams, champions, relegation, best of the rest, all that. Let us know down in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you all for the next one. And however that's.